Yeah. Alright, yeah. Soundproof. Yeah.
Hold on,
Now we hear you.
Sounds good.
Yeah,
That
Both
sounds
of us.
good. That sounds good.
So right, both here.
Hey.
Yeah. So if y'all never ever cuddled, right now is a good time to cuddle. Yeah. Hold each other close. Ooh.
Aww.
Uh-huh.
Would you guys ever do so let me ask this first before you answer my second question. Did you guys have a wedding, like a formal, like an actual wedding? What do you guys
Well, can we back up? Can we back up? I think we just need to do introductions, being as though we talking about stuff that people know nothing about. So, you know,
What is happening?
who is this man sitting next to our
He's
Danica?
been on our pod
He has,
before.
but he's been here as an individual. So, you know, people might not have connected the two.
With
kind of
no
situation.
video last time.
With no video, nobody saw what he looked like. So, okay, so yeah, because this is that awkward silence. Hello, everyone. I am Kareem.
I'm Rebekah.
This is Danica.
And her husband, Reggie.
See how beautiful that was. So now we know. So now go ahead with your with your question.
No, I was just gonna ask you guys, and then I don't know. Maybe it doesn't make sense, but I was gonna ask you if you guys ever had a formal wedding, and if you never did on your 10-year anniversary or whatever it may be, would you guys ever want to have? Or you guys probably met your 10-year anniversary, didn't you?
We're that old, but yes, you
Yeah.
didn't have to remind everyone that we were that old.
No, because you know what? I just remembered your tattoo, and I was like, it says a 9 on
we're,
it.
like past that.
Yeah, you're right.
So we eloped 2009, and we thought about it for the 10-year, and didn't really execute on that. I think we just want to have like a big family vacation and make that into the moment that we do it
That'd
with the
be
people
cool.
that we love around us.
Yeah.
The
And
Kareem
until
think
we
he's
get to that
invited.
family vacation, doesn't matter what year it is, 12, 13, 14, 15, doesn't matter. When that happens, we'll jump on it, right, Dan?
Yeah, that's exactly what it is.
I like that.
That's the plan.
It's so funny that y'all say that because the banter just came to my mind.
Oh, what's up?
So, what are your thoughts around like weddings and big weddings and spending and going into debt for, you know, that one day, that day that young ladies have dreamed about, right? They've dreamed about the big wedding and the big dress and big churches and
Do they?
all of that. I don't know. I'm amongst the male species where I'd be like, just marry me, put me in a suit, I'll meet you there kind of situations. But no, I do feel that I guess I'll go first. I feel like big weddings, although they're like your dream, it's, I guess maybe where I'm at in life, it doesn't seem like the best thing to do financially. I also kind of look at it as though our weddings is about other people and not necessarily ourselves. Because you do all this grand stuff and you got this big hall and all of this, and you spend all of this money for people to come, look, eat your food. They don't bring presents, you know, just that kind of thing. So for me, it's just like, it just seems better to spend that money on something else. Maybe your home that you're going to move into. I know a lot of people who spent $20,000 on a home and pretty much got on the bus the next day, or they went to their mother's house. They live in their mom's house or their mom's basement. It's just like, wait, that
$20,000 on a wedding.
Right. That doesn't make
Okay.
sense to me. And they saved up for it, and it's wonderful. But once you get married, you realize we really could have spent that money on some other shit.
Right.
Right. And so I don't know. That's just kind of my thought about it. What are your thoughts around those type of things?
So I've actually never been a person that has thought about like a wedding because I never wanted to get married. So I've never like thought about like wedding dresses or venues. That's just, I've never been that person. And then I met Amir, and then I said that I do want to get married. And it's so funny that you mentioned that. And it's so funny that you mentioned that because very recently Amir and I was talking about what our wedding would be like, which is the weirdest conversation that we had, but it was beautiful. And we say that we don't want, like, if I don't have a personal story with you, you shouldn't be at my wedding. Does that make sense?
Right.
So, like, if I don't know you very well, like, why should I share my special day with you?
Right.
So I want it to be him and I, because it's just not my day, like it's our day.
Right.
And we just always wanted we want something small. And one of the reasons why I want to actually have a ceremony is because I want my father to walk me down the aisle, because he has 2 girls, and he never did that for my sister because she eloped.
Yeah.
And I'm sure he would want that opportunity. And So I've always wanted something. I want something small. We want something small, and we want to invest in our home and our actual life in the future.
Right.
That's
Yeah,
smart.
like that's. Yeah.
Yeah. Like, I don't know. I've seen people spend $20,000.
It's so absurd.
And they go to Atlantic City for their honeymoon.
Actually, you know what? I don't want to say. I don't want to say that. You know why? Because it's everyone's prerogative to do whatever they want for their special day, right? And if they feel like this is an important day for them and they want to look their best and they want to be their best, by all means, go for it. But to me, that's just a waste of money. You know, just it's a waste.
Yeah, I generally think it's really up to the person. From my last episode, I told everyone I work in a bank, so I see money movement.
Yeah.
And this also kind of comes back to race. I've never had a person of color come into the bank, a husband and wife, after being married with a bunch of checks. But I've had tons of Jewish, Italian, Irish couples come in with $40,000, $50,000 worth of gifts and checks for a wedding that cost them $20,000, $30,000. So in that case, hell yeah, go for it. But when you're in the situation where you're starting as a young family, and although both of you are employed, for example, and you're not going to get those gifts to even cover the wedding, then you really have to ask yourself, how does this make sense for me? Because I have seen credit cards, $25,000, $30,000, $40,000 of credit card debt. And when I look, it's like to caterers or to wedding planners. And I'm sure it was a beautiful day, but I don't want to sound negative, but with divorce rates as high as they are, it almost sounds like you're investing in failure.
Yeah.
Instead, invest that money into making the family stronger so that you don't have those issues. I didn't have this problem, Danica and I, even though I think both of us would have liked to perhaps have a nice, intimate wedding. FY, for people that don't know, the best wedding of all time was actually Kareem's wedding.
Word.
Because Kareem's wedding was extremely intimate.
Oh my God.
It was about how many people, Kareem? 25, 30 people?
It was 30. We both had 15 apiece.
Right.
I love
And I just
that.
want to throw that plug out that my 15 included the DJ, the caterer, and all
It
of that.
was but it was so good. It was such a good wedding. Like
Yeah.
Best wedding of all
Yeah.
time. Best wedding of all time.
I was part of the planning, guys. Just
The
letting you know.
Kareem
Just throwing that
special.
out there.
It's so funny that you say that because for me, when I thought about getting married, like you said, Rebekah, if I don't have a personal story with you, if you don't know the person that I'm getting married to, you haven't met him or her,
Right.
then you don't need to be here.
Exactly.
And then when I think about the $100 and some odd dollars to feed you,
No.
just for you to sit there,
And maybe talk
seriously.
about my wedding and my husband or who
right,
like
and dog you out after they leave, right?
the
Just-
chicken was dry.
Seen it.
Well,
I've
you're
seen it.
dry. No.
No, but then you didn't even bring a present.
I know. Where's my monetary gift?
You came empty-handed, and then you still have the nerve to judge.
No, absolutely. So yeah, and if you don't like my spouse or whomever, like you shouldn't be at my wedding.
Agreed.
You shouldn't be there.
I mean, I guess this banner is really short, but I don't know. I just kind of look at it as though I feel like our wedding really becomes about the people that we want to impress. Right. And so it's like we want the best, we want the grandest. And don't get me wrong, it should be nice. But it's just, I don't know. I just think that it's for me, it's a waste of finances. And trust me, I know that it's maturity. You know, as I'm in a place in my life where you just look at it and be like, some stuff that we spend money on, it's just like, that's not the best investment.
Yeah.
Especially if you and your spouse don't have your own home or even your own apartment. I mean, if it's nothing, you don't have to buy a home, but when you get married, you and your spouse should be moving somewhere on your own together and investing, getting ready for your children or whatever it is, just kind of investing in you and not the grandiose experience for someone else to come.
It's all for social media. And
Yeah, like,
hype. That's
the
what
only-
it
Right.
is.
The
It's
only
sad.
vain thing that I want is like 2 different dresses.
And that's fine.
me.
That's fine. That's fine. I mean, like Reggie and them talked about, my wedding. My wedding was under $10,000. And when I say under $10,000, I'm talking everything,
Included.
including rings. The rings, we pay more for the rings than we did for anything else.
And they're like David Yurman rings. Look at putting your business
don't
out
be
there.
putting my business out. Listen.
If you're not familiar with David Yurman, you need to get
putting my
familiar.
business out.
David Yurman is where it's at.
Well, I mean, but no, I mean, I think it can be nice and it should be beautiful, but beauty doesn't equate to dollars.
No.
Agreed.
Extravagance doesn't equate to dollars. You can be and have a beautiful situation and it be reasonable. I know people who are saving up for their wedding for years. I just
want to say that I'm in disbelief that was less than $10,000.
Yeah.
You had those floating candles. You came down the aisle. The videographer had 2 assistants. They were, it was crazy. It was beautiful.
Yeah,
That's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
I love that. That's great.
Yeah.
The venue, perfection.
Perfect.
Okay, wait, I have another question to ask you. What do you think about when you get married and you tell your guests what colors to wear?
I did.
I like that.
I did.
Because everything's color coordinated and makes sense.
You come to my wedding.
Because I don't feel so bad about thinking about that.
No. Because the thing is, for me, like for instance, like once again, extravagance, right? When you take pictures of people, you want it to look unison. Everybody that came to my wedding wore white.
I love that.
Yeah,
I want
wear
neutral
white,
colors.
And if you thought you was bringing a splash of color, you was gonna be stopped at the door.
I'm not gonna be wearing red to my.
No.
I'm going outside.
No.
It was perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I believe like everybody else, you should do what you want to do.
Yeah, but make it make sense.
Yeah.
Because if you can afford it, fine. But if you can't, like, why spend that much money on your wedding?
I mean, I think it just goes back for me when I think about things like this. I just think about my community and the lack of financial education that we have. And so we're always, most of us kind of like are struggling. We are like one paycheck from being homeless or whatever it is. We're making ends meet. But if you're in a making ends meet situation and you want to get married, just kind of think about it. Why does your 10th grade teacher need to be at your wedding? Like, what is that about? You got a wedding list of 100 people. That makes absolutely no sense. And just kind of like we're just thinking about, but it's really no judgment. Do what you want. But hey, I'm here. Y'all watch me for my opinion. So that's just exactly what it was. So, yeah.
Oh, man.
But anyway, so what are we talking about today? I think we all agreed on something that is a needed conversation. It's maybe a little controversial.
But we like that here.
But we like a little controversy, right? I think we've become the podcast about love and relationships, but we want to kind of diversify that.
And shake things up.
And shake things up a little bit. So I think what we agreed on today is the concept of cultural appropriation, right? And this is something that we see all the time. And then there's always these excuses about the use or the usage of other people's their culture, their style, their religious beliefs,
down to art, all of it.
Art, all of that. And so I think Reggie has a definition. We're gonna go with your definition, Reggie. What's the definition of cultural appropriation?
So really, there's 2 things I want to make sure I share, and I know you're very passionate about this, Kareem, but I want to share appreciation.
He done rolled his sleeves up.
We're about to get down. Me and Reggie about to go at it.
I want to share appreciation and appropriation because I really think it's 2 different things, and I really want us to start there.
Okay.
Like, what's the difference, and if you agree that there actually is a difference.
Okay.
All right. So appropriation is taking one aspect of a culture that is not your own and using it for your own personal interest. Mm-hmm. Whereas appreciation is when someone seeks to understand and learn about another culture in an effort to broaden their perspective and connect with others cross-culturally. So just to kind of give an example, appropriation could be purchasing a piece of jewelry or clothing that may have important cultural significance to that culture and simply use it as a fashion statement. You could be using that to make money, or it could just be that you want to get a ton of likes on Facebook. That really is the definition of what appropriation is.
Yeah.
Okay?
Mm-hmm.
So What do you think about that, Kareem?
Well, so you threw out two things. So now I need you to define appreciation. You're just not going to throw that out.
So I defined it, but I'll give you an example.
How you already starting?
I'm here for it today. I'm here for it.
I'll give you an example of what I describe as
Appreciation.
Appreciation is where you have Eminem, right? You have a fully Caucasian man who's grown up in poverty. He has made tons of African American friends. He appreciates African American music and hip hop culture. He starts from the bottom of that and does it for a passion of loving the music. Doesn't just do it for money. He's working a 9-to-5 job, and in the evenings he's doing this for a passion that he enjoys, communion with his friends around hip hop. It turns into something where he's actually skillful at it, and he moves that into something that can financially help him and his family. I find it hard to say that Eminem has appropriated hip hop culture, and I'm not going to say our culture because I'm not African American, but that's a good example for me where we talk about appreciation versus.
First of all,
wait.
No,
He's about
Danica
to
is
start on you.
eyeballing me. Like, don't be eyeballing me, Danica.
No, Danica.
I'm
Me
sitting
too.
in the middle.
I'm
so
waiting.
I'm just like,
She
I
like-
don't know if I'm at the right place.
No, you are.
He's not going to punch me yet.
No.
Yeah, because I'm gonna take it for you.
No, but okay, so
You're a New York girl. We eat those.
I don't know.
hear
It's a
this.
thin line for me, Reggie, around appropriation versus appreciation. And it's a thin line because I feel that in most cases, appropriation happens. And appreciation is the kind of default that you go to when you're called out for your appropriation. No, but I really love the culture. You know, I grew up here. I did this, and this. I can't speak to Eminem because I actually like Eminem, but I can't speak to Eminem because I don't necessarily know the history of Eminem, but I do know how appropriation is marketed using individuals who have the ability to sell, right? And so rather it's NSYNC, who was the boy band to battle the boy bands who were black at the time, or the Backstreet Boys, right? I don't necessarily think that the Backstreet Boys themselves were necessarily appropriating, but the people who were marketing them knew exactly why there was a need for a Backstreet Boys and an NSYNC, right? And so when it comes to Eminem, do I think he's true to the game? I don't know. I like him, but I don't know if that's the case.
So I think that's the difficulty. And, you know, I did a little research to see how I could express myself on this, right? And I think it really comes down to intent. And the difficulty in identifying the difference between appreciation and appropriation is I don't know what Kareem's real intent is unless I can cut him open and see what's going on in his brain, and that's impossible, right? So someone is called out for appropriation, they tell you my intent is appreciation. So now everyone that's doing that particular behavior gets treated as if it's appropriation. So before you say anything, I really want to bring Rebekah into this conversation, right? Because
well, she's gonna have to wait because I got I got this thing on my mind and I need to let
go
it
ahead.
And if she needs to interject, she will, because we know how she do. Yes, I'm here for the shit today. But no, but so the thing for me is, so this is the thing. The difference between appropriation and appreciation for me, Reggie, is when you acknowledge the people that you're appropriating. So if you, like, let's say for instance, if I go to Africa, I'm black, but I'm not African, right? So if I decide today or tomorrow that I wanted to make music and I'm using African beats and I'm doing that, if I do not acknowledge the culture for which I have used, then I can't. That's not appreciation for me.
That's appropriation.
Appreciation for me is acknowledging the people who you are abstracting from. So you're saying they should be in the credits. That's a pun to someone else who used beats and stuff, and they weren't in the credits. They wasn't given credit for it. They're not necessarily in your video. There's no reflection of this community in your work. but then you want to say, oh, well, no, I appreciate them. They should be acknowledged. They should be brought to the forefront. Or there should at least be a statement of that appreciation.
So I 100% agree with you. But we have gotten to a point in society where it doesn't even matter if there was financial gain from what I'm doing. It's just that I'm doing something that's not associated with my particular race or culture in your mind. So you're saying that I'm appropriating. It doesn't have anything to do sometimes with financial gain. You know, I remember over the summer I saw Adele.
Yeah.
With Bantu knots, a Jamaican flag as like a swimsuit top. And the first reaction of people that don't know Adele and her history is Adele is appropriating Jamaican culture and African culture, right? And pretty much, if you know Adele, she comes from a very poor part of England, in London, called Tottenham. She's grown up with these people. This is who she associates with on a regular basis. She will go to the club. She will speak patois better than people that grew up in the islands, because she's a part of our culture and we accept her. Most of us that know accept her. But just because she's white, someone will jump up and say she's appropriating culture. She wasn't doing it to make money. She doesn't need to dress up. She was just having fun.
And embracing and appreciating.
Right. So it's like we get to that difficult
And
point.
then I get the cut out.
Right? But then that's why I wanted to bring Rebekah into things, right? Because I come over here every couple of weeks. We sit down to record these episodes. Rebekah is Guyanese. I'm Antiguan. Rebekah has Indian ancestry, if everybody couldn't tell. And, I'm not Indian, if you couldn't tell. But I have a massive appreciation for food. I know you could tell that, right? But my passion for food extends to Indian culture. So every time we see each other, I ask her for palori. I talk to her about dal puri and paratha. Do you feel like I'm appropriating culture, or do you feel like that's appreciation?
No, it's appreciation.
We were talking a few minutes ago about a food truck. Don't be surprised if you see me making Indian food or Chinese
roti.
culture or whatever it may be, because I appreciate these things. It's not that I'm just doing it for financial gains, that I want others to experience this culture. Right?
I wanted to make a comment about when we were talking about music, right? So I think the perfect example about appropriation would have to be Little Richard and Elvis Presley, right? So if
That's
we're
stealing, but go ahead.
That's
stealing.
Let's hear it.
blatant.
That's not
Let's
appropriation,
hear
that's
it.
stealing.
I think that is a perfect example
It is.
of it, right? Because there were financial opportunities from that. He was making money. A lot of people today don't know that the songs that Elvis Presley became famous for was that of a black man, right? A black man sang all of these songs, made it popular. Where did rock and roll come from? Not the whites, okay? It came from the black folks. That's who came up with rock and roll. So if we're talking about music, then sure. I think that the issue about appropriation versus appreciation, so I think that it's important for us to, you're mentioning food, right? So I don't think it's cool whenever you'll make this food, right? Say okay, I'm Guyanese, right? And I go make Ethiopian food. I love Ethiopian food, right? Say I go make Ethiopian food. I think it's delicious. And I was a person, I'm taking it somewhere, right? Now I'm not a figurehead anywhere. I'm just a regular girl, so I'm making Ethiopian food. I'm taking it somewhere. I think that it's our job as individuals to educate others on why this is made this way, maybe why I decided to make this food, what I like about it. So in that way, you're educating other people about this particular food and where it came from. Why do you like it? You know what I mean? I think that's what separates it and makes it appreciation. No? So go ahead.
Oh, I mean, I think... No, I want you to finish that thought, because this is a totally different thought.
Go ahead. It's fine.
The thought for me is like appropriation in America is very difficult. And I just want to throw this out. Appropriation in America is very difficult because this is what we consider to be a melting pot, right? In a sense that all cultures come to this nation. And unfortunately, when you assimilate into this culture, it becomes up for grabs. It really does. And you know, and the difficulty is that our white counterparts usually take from cultures of color and they use it, right? They steal it, they appropriate it, or whatever it is, and it becomes pop culture, right? So pop culture is a hodgepodge of various cultures, because pop culture doesn't have its own culture. It's a combination of all different cultures. So when you see Kim Kardashian in braids, it's pop culture, right? Or she makes it pop culture. And so it becomes this norm where you see everyone in braids because it's pop culture. Like hip hop has become pop culture. Over the last 30 years, hip hop has become pop culture. So it started with African Americans, but then it became pop culture. So we're sensitive about it and we're territorial about it. But at this point, it no longer belongs to us. When you come to America and you assimilate, you lose that cultural.
It becomes watered down of some sort.
I wouldn't say watered down. I just think that you lose the agency over it. And I feel like in this country, when you put something out, rather it's style, rather it's a hairstyle, whatever it is, you lose agency over it. You can no longer hold on to it. You can say it originated here and you can take credit for it. And I think that that's the issue. With appropriation, it's really about giving credit to the people who created it. And people in communities of color don't get the credit for the things that they create, especially African Americans, right? And I think it's difficult for us because we created America. America is African American. You can say what you want. You might not want to give us credit, but American culture is African American culture.
Yeah.
However, we never get to claim it. We never get credit for it. And so we're up in arms when we see people do what we've pulled ourselves up by the bootstraps, as they say, and done, but you won't give us credit for it. And so I think that that's where the anger comes in, and that kind of thing kind of comes in. And so I want to speak to Reggie and Adele. Unfortunately, we're in a society where everyone is really sensitive. Just call a thing a thing.
PC culture.
Right. We've become really sensitive about everything. And so although Adele may have grew up in a community, she may have acknowledged a community, sometimes we have to acknowledge our privilege. And we have to acknowledge, let's say, for instance, our whiteness. If you're white, you have to acknowledge the fact that you're white. You are a part of the majority. And historically, your people have stolen from other people. And is it your fault? No. But you got to be cognizant of it.
Yeah.
You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Of course.
And say, hey, and give acknowledgement. Because the people that you are representing don't know your story, but they have their own story. And their story is, your people have stolen from us.
Yeah, because I recently saw a video about this young black girl. She was mentioning how a lot of white comedians, specifically the ones that got popular off of TikTok, and how they used ebonics as a way to come off funny, right? And so I think, is that a way, is that like a cultural...
That's the perfect, because a lot of those who imitate women are imitating black
women.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're imitating black women.
Black women.
All of the gestures are of black women.
All of them.
It's the only white woman impersonation
Karen.
is Karen. Exactly. Other than that, it's a black woman. It's a black woman's stereotype.
And what's her name, Danica?
Keisha.
Keisha from the Block?
Keisha and them.
Keisha from the block.
And so those are the kind of things that I think that we get up in arms about, because and to drive it home a little closer, black women can't wear cornrows to work.
No.
Black women can't wear cornrows to work. They can't wear Bantu knots to work. They can't wear these things
Dreads.
to work. However, a white woman wear it, and now it's fashionable. And so that's where the issue
not
comes in
okay
for
with
us.
me.
It's okay for them, but it's not okay for us. You stole it from us, but it's okay when you wear it. It's acceptable when you wear it. And that's where we find problems.
And what about the conversation you and I had in the kitchen about flipping it?
Yeah. I would be remiss if I did not talk about how blacks appropriate white culture. That's what we're talking about.
Yeah.
Big time.
My time.
Big time. Big
Oh, I
time.
thought you
Big
said
time
my
how?
time.
Big time how? Because I don't want to be the only bad guy in this situation.
You're
Come on,
not a
Reggie, speak
bad
about it.
guy. You're
It's, I don't
fair.
It's everywhere, man. From the way that women wear their hair to the makeup that they purchase. They're not purchasing black brands or things that really accentuate their complexion. They lighten themselves. They do thousands of different things that cheapen the beauty that they have, while at the same time saying that they're being discriminated against. And really, you just mentioned something. This person can do this, I can't do it. And we didn't have Malcolm X and Dr. Luther King and all of these different people just sitting back. They had to fight for what they wanted. If you want to wear dreads to your workplace and you look at yourself in the mirror and your mom looks at you in the mirror and your friends look at you in the mirror and your professor in college looks at you in the mirror and says, this is tastefully done. But you go into the workplace and you're told, hey, you can't wear that here. Mm-hmm. There comes a point where if we don't stand up and say, okay, I'll just sue you guys because this is not right. Mm-hmm. If you don't have if it's that important to us, we have to stand up. And as a people, because we're living check to check, we never take that step because we can't afford to lose this job.
Right.
We can't afford, right? And another thing is we don't stick together, right? There's times when we may say, you know what, I'm going to fight this fight for my people. And your people are just standing in the back like, yo, you go ahead, playboy.
Yeah.
Right. You got this. Right? And then you sitting down by yourself at night. No food on your table. So really it comes back to, as much as we can blame other people, how are we taking responsibility for ourselves? I work in a place where I have Middle Eastern individuals that work for me. I have white individuals, Jewish individuals that work for me. My client base is mostly ultra-Orthodox Jews. But I don't reduce my blackness because I'm in that environment, right? Again, I'm not African American, but I am African, right? Deep inside, everywhere. Mm-hmm. You can see my mannerisms. I don't change. I've been in America since 2007, so almost 14 years. I haven't lost my accent. I haven't changed who I am. When I go to work, I'm the same person. If one of my employees pisses me off, I curse them out in patois, right? In front of them. And they're like, yo, I didn't understand what you said. I'm like, you better learn, right? Because you need to understand what you did wasn't acceptable, right? Because it's important that I don't diminish my culture. But when you see individuals move here or individuals work in that white environment and they start talking like them and dressing like them, and changing who they are to assimilate, then you can't turn around and say these people are discriminating against us, right? Because at the same time, we are allowing them to reduce who we are. There's a difference between someone pressing you into the ground and you putting someone's shoe on your neck and saying, push me down. I don't want to be recognized for who I am.
Now, Reggie, that's a complex thing, and
very complex.
Because
very complex.
I would have to really debate you on that. I think because you are from somewhere else, your experience is very different.
100%.
Because for those of us who are from here, assimilation, unfortunately, is the only way that we survive and we get by. And it's unfortunate,
right.
But the laws of the land has not worked for us, and I get it. We don't have the collective capacity to fight the system because the system is larger than us.
We don't have it, or we don't use it.
No, we don't have it. Now, when I say have it, that doesn't mean that we couldn't have it. We currently don't have it because that would be a movement that would take all of us to do it. And so as an individual, you're trying to feed your family, as you stated before, you're trying to make it, and you just want to get ahead. And unfortunately, the systems here say that in order to get ahead, you need to meet this standard. And if you don't meet this standard, then your stop is right here on this ride. This is as far as you go. And so that's something that we as African Americans have fought for or fought with since our existence here. It's always a loophole. And we talked about loopholes before, Rebekah. It's always a loophole that holds you in your place. So assimilation, although many of us don't like it, like me, I try my best to be authentic in every space that I go to, but I do understand that I have to play the game in order to survive.
Right.
And I buck it. Anybody that knows me, anybody I ever worked for knows that I buck the system, but I also know how much I can buck. Do you get what I'm saying? And that's a power thing, and that's a struggle thing, and that's racism in our culture. And so we do what we can in order to survive. And that's why, entrepreneurship and all the other kind of stuff is where my mind is now. But until then, I got to play the game. I got to do what I need to do in order to survive and to feed my family.
Yeah.
But there was something that we were talking about before that I wanted to get to: appropriation.
Yeah.
One of the main things that is appropriated that bothers me is Black women and their beauty. Appropriation for me, when I think about that, is that Black women appropriate transgenders. And here is why. So Black women, your lashes, your lace front wigs, your makeup.
First of all,
hold on, hear me out. Your lashes, your lace front wigs, your bronzing, your contouring,
Extra long nails.
Oh, no, that's something that came along recently. But so I'm saying this, Danica, as you look at me sideways.
She's ready for you.
take my hoop earrings.
These techniques, these items, actually stem from the transgender performer community. Drag queens have been wearing long eyelashes and contouring and doing all of that
Overlined lips, all of it.
for decades, right? And it's been transgenders who would paint. When I always say we say paint in the community, who would actually apply the makeup of women to make them look beautiful, right? And so now when we do it, when it's done, and I'm not speaking to every woman. I think the issue for me is that I hear women speak badly about transgenders, right? But you don't want to give transgenders the credit for which they have stowed upon you in your beauty. And that go for gays as well. Gay men make you look fabulous.
It's true.
Gay men, this whole facade that you have, this fabulous woman that you are, gay men did that. You didn't do that on your own. The style that you have, the way you dress, Hollywood, all gay men, transgenders. I'm just saying.
I am so intrigued.
It's really about just
and they're in
giving.
the background.
It's
I'm
like
so
giving
intrigued. I did
Right.
not know
It's like
this.
giving people their props for what they contribute to your life. You didn't do this.
Okay.
Okay.
How does one give props to what you're talking about?
I think once
A
again,
regular person like
it's
us.
really just
How do you do it?
acknowledging that the style that you have. Right?
So it would be like if someone were to say, "Hey, I love the way your hair looks." That's an opportunity for you to say, "Well, like, how do you do it?"
I don't know. I don't necessarily know what that looks like.
Okay.
But
I'm really just asking, not challenging.
but it is really just acknowledging the fact that you didn't get to this place of being fabulous by yourself. And it is people who have put you on. It is people who have taught you these things. You didn't do
agree,
it on your own.
Even like in the modeling industry, when you watch America's Next Top Model and you see Mr. J and who all the others are the ones who actually doing the makeup or telling you how to not do this or do that instead, or pose this way, or hey, the color is not really, we're gonna cut your hair and make it
All
look
the
like
makeovers.
right. I don't feel like even with that, a lot of people don't give them. Well, I mean, in model industry, they probably do give them credit on that end.
Right.
But then even on the back end, when
The
they
acknowledgement.
right, when they have to go down on Madison Avenue, Times Square, wherever they are at doing their shows and so forth, like RuPaul, and
Fave.
you see them doing their makeups and stuff, you actually see them actually working along straight women, helping them to be better. So that's I get it.
And the other thing is like when we talk about culture isn't always race or ethnicity, right?
Yeah.
So the gay culture is a culture, and we just need to call it what it is. So gay culture shapes pop culture, right? And so when you see individuals who are like voguing and they're doing what they call the death drop, which is really called a dip. It's not called the death drop. So I just want to put that out again. So when you see people do things, you have to just give credit to the community. But individual, and I guess why it burns my biscuits, stick on my thing. It burns my biscuits because the very people who exploit this community are the very ones who do not accept or acknowledge them. And that's the issue for me.
Me too.
So you death dropping and you doing all this extra stuff in your music videos and all this other kind of stuff, but you do not acknowledge the people or the community that you stole from.
It's like the picking and the choosing, right? Like you want this, I want this part of your culture, but I don't want the rest of it. Like you can keep the rest of that. Yeah.
No, it's pretty much what appropriation is. I want your skills,
But I don't want to be you though.
right? But I don't want anything else from you. I want your talent.
Yeah.
It's really difficult though, because you sat there and I just learned something. I just learned something massive. I didn't know all of the things you just talked about regarding the LGBT
Transgenders.
community
Me
and
too.
what they've done. But then through your conversation, then I remember watching RuPaul Drag Race. And Danica forcing me to watch that first episode. And then me saying for the second one, again, we got to watch this. And by the fifth one, I was like,
Hooked.
we got to watch this again.
Because it's enjoyable.
I love
Let's
RuPaul
do it
Drag
on. I don't want to
Race.
sashay away up to my bed at night. I want to watch it again. Right? Because I didn't know. So then how do I acknowledge what I don't know? Isn't sometimes the acknowledgement me doing it? And that, and the reason why I'm saying that, Kareem, is there are times when I've seen performers use another culture and they're making financial gain from it.
Sure.
There's a gain to it. I don't think that Danica with longer lashes was doing that for some type of gain. So I don't know if I want to say, Danica, you're appropriating transgender gay culture, right? Whereas we have, I saw this beautiful picture. Some of us are going to know what picture I'm talking about, of Rihanna recently, where she was holding her breast,
Oh yeah.
topless, right? Beautiful picture. Very beautiful picture. Sorry, Danica.
Damn.
She's a beautiful girl. She's a beautiful girl.
But on her hand,
gang.
she had some type of Hindu
Henna.
henna.
Yeah,
or
it's like a
something of that
henna, yeah.
nature, right? And that religion is very against nudity and sexualizing image, right? No, she's monetized. Everything that she does as a performer is monetized. She does a post and there's a bottle of Ciroc in the back. It's monetized. Whether or not she even realized it was in the back, someone on her team is going, yo, let's call Ciroc, because we're about to put this post up. There's money to be made here, right? It may not be her specifically, but that's where performers have a responsibility. It doesn't matter what their intent may be. They have a responsibility to bring that out to the public. And I saw this recently with makeup. You talked about makeup a lot. And so many beautiful women on Instagram, right? So many of these women are influencers and they're on these Real Housewives of Atlanta, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. They're rappers, female rappers, et cetera. And they really ever credit their makeup artists. And it almost had me believing that they were doing their own makeup. I thought that they were skilled.
Some of them are men.
I didn't know.
Most of them
A
are men.
lot of them, when you do realize that a lot of them are men or are gay men, right? And then you realize, well, they don't even give credit to these people, right? And they don't. But is that a human thing, or is that like an appropriation? Is that a human thing of just not caring about the other person? Where is that line?
Well, the thing for me is like I don't think it's appropriation. That's not what I'm considering appropriation. Appropriation for me is when, I guess what I was speaking to was just acknowledging where you get something from, right? And so a lot of black women look like drag queens. Period. At this point in the game, when women get dressed and they feel like they doing the thing, they use the techniques of drag queens.
That's true.
Not transgenders, but drag queens. So when you see RuPaul Drag Race, right, Reggie, you mentioned that. Them girls be blocked and chiseled and they be contoured. And I see women doing this. And so us gay men are like, do you know that's for the nighttime? You out in broad daylight with this night face on. like you on stage, like it's 12 noon. Why are you contoured and blocked at 12 noon? That's a night face. That's a stage face. And we laugh at women because we're like, this is theater.
It's too heavy.
This is theater makeup. You are dressed like a drag queen who is doing a show in a bar under major lights, but you're out at 12 o'clock looking like a damn clown.
Melting
in the damn heat, right? But so I guess the thing for me is it's not about using or taking these things. It's really about the hatred that a lot of heterosexual women have against the very community that they take from. That's problematic for me.
Yeah,
that's the issue.
That's
really the issue. Because when I see like a post about a transgender woman or a drag queen, straight women spit some vile shit.
Yeah.
But they sitting here with a lace front on, full makeup, their nose is contoured, they got on all this bronzer. Where do you think you got that from?
Yeah.
And so those kind of things are the things that piss me off. And I think that's really the community. Mm-hmm. Even when we talk about hip hop, for me to see, white people bumping hip hop, but then when something happens in hip hop, you don't stand with this community that you take from.
That's the issue.
Or that you enjoy. Yeah. Those are the things that bother me. If you down for me, you down for the culture, be down for the culture.
You're speaking about people like what's his name, Lil Pump.
I don't even know who Lil Pump is. I don't know who that is.
So there was this white rapper, always talking about drugs and things of that nature.
Ain't never sold drugs a day in his life.
Trump was having his rally, and he's Hispanic. Is that a Hispanic or
well, his race
white
is
Hispanic?
white. Yeah, he's white though.
Because
his race is white.
That's a whole nother
topic.
Yeah.
So it was funny because hip hop culture, which has brought this person so much success, he's used for his success. Hip hop culture came from the Bronx in abject poverty conditions. Most of the people that you see in hip hop come from poverty conditions. They have sold drugs to earn money to get studio time.
Except Drake.
Except Drake.
I'm just saying.
They have done something to build funds to do that, right? Kareem is upset because I'm a big Drake fan. But, to turn around and then look at that culture and just say, I'm going to put the middle finger to your face and I'm going to support someone that doesn't care about people in poverty situations, doesn't care about the other people who developed this. I just don't care. It really spits in the face. It doesn't really stop people from listening to their music, though. They still make music, still make money, but it just hurts me to see that. I'm not from poverty conditions myself here in the U.S., so I don't really associate myself to hip-hop culture that much. But at the same time, I see it, and I'm like, people work really hard to get out of poverty. And know that they've done that, and you didn't come from that environment, and you just spit in their face. People do that all the time. But before I give it back to Kareem, I want to touch on Drake, because Drake has passed the point of cultural appropriation. People don't even say he appropriates culture anymore. They say he's a culture vulture. right? So he's on the other level, right? In people's minds. In
Well, tell
people's
us-
minds.
like, yep.
Tell us about it.
You know, people say, you know, because every time there's something new that is hot, Drake somehow becomes involved, right? It's difficult for me to tell you whether it's appropriation or not because I'm not in his mind. I can only tell you my opinion.
Well, I challenge you to go back to the definition of appropriation.
Appropriation is not understanding someone's culture or where those cultural aspects come from and then using it for your financial benefit without caring about where it actually comes from.
It's so funny because I didn't see in the definition where profit was a part of it. Because
It can be financial profit. It could be for likes. It could be for your gain. It doesn't have to be financial gain.
Right.
It could be for your gain. So simply taking one aspect of a culture that is not your own and using it for your own personal interest. So when I think of Drake, I don't only think of him as doing things for his personal interest. In my opinion, I've seen so many situations where he has taken a liking to particular cultures and the way it's influenced his music, and he has highlighted that culture and put
Yeah.
energy back into that culture.
I was thinking
But at the same time, for people that don't know the specifics, and I would put Kareem into this boat because Kareem talked about acknowledging it, right? How many times can someone who does short form media acknowledge it? Every time I make a song, I'm going to have to acknowledge that I speak patois.
shout out to Nigeria. It's real simple.
I'm with you. But instead of saying shout out to Nigeria, I might say shout out to Popcorn, who is a Jamaican artist that I look up to. Right? Drake, if you picked up the phone right now, I'm sure you have his number, right, Kareem? Because you know
I do
You
not.
don't? Okay. If you
Is he KRS
if you
One?
spoke,
You know, I'm old school.
I'm
If it
sure
ain't-
if you spoke to him right now, you ask him about Popcorn, he would tell you of him being an idol to him. This is a musical artist that is international, but at the same time is in such a small music form, dancehall and reggae, that you're not going to get the same recognition as an international pop star like Drake, right? And there's a lot of music. I mean, every album there's 3, 4, 5 times I've pretty much heard Jamaican type music, right? And I hear references to Popcorn, to dancehall culture, to
the slangs and
to
everything.
Popcorn, Unruly. If you've ever heard Drake say Unruly, that's
Unruly.
Popcorn's
Yeah.
collective of people.
Yep.
He came up with that name, and you hear him use that. No, he signed Popcorn to his OVO label, right? And you can look at that simple-mindedly and say, well, you're doing that just so you can use that culture more, because people sometimes look at everything from a negative angle. Whereas when you speak to Popcorn, who is successful in his own right, who is someone who is very opinionated, strong-minded, doesn't need a cosign from anybody, never asks for a cosign from anybody. When he talks about Drake, and I remember listening to a story on Hot 97 where he said, you know, I remember the first time I met Drake, and we walked into a club and everybody had been there for hours, so all the tables were stacked with bottles and stuff. And Drake was trying to get us a table, and he started clearing the table for me. And Popcorn is like, yo, this guy is making millions of dollars every song he drops. This is someone that is worldwide renowned, and he is taking the time to clear a table for me. I'm just a little dancehall artist, right? And it's like when Popcorn had he has a music festival he started about 2-3 years ago in Jamaica. For Drake to take time to go to that music festival, no matter how many people show up in Jamaica, I don't see the commercial viability for Drake to do that, the financial aspect of that. Just doing it for a friend and for the culture, it's important. But I know that as a Caribbean person, seeing the run and listening to things he says. But when he walks up on, I don't know if it was the Grammy stage or some award show, and he says, more tune for your head top. And everybody's like, huh? What are you talking about? What kind of a, patois? Why are you appropriating that culture now? When really he was just paying homage to where he gets so much of his music and saying more value in my songs for your head, for your listening. right? But just saying it in a different language so you can recognize and bring focus to that culture. I appreciate Drake for that. But I can understand with someone who doesn't really listen to his music and doesn't understand who he associates with may say, oh, he doesn't recognize Jamaican culture because he doesn't wave a Jamaican flag and he doesn't say big up to Jamaica every time he sings a song, right? So that's why I think the subject of appropriation is extremely difficult to just paint a brush, because if we're being honest, the only way is the two extremes, because the only separation between the two extremes is intent, and I cannot tell someone's intent.
I agree. I
Most of the time.
I also think that the way that the world is intertwined, cultural appropriation is very difficult, because regardless of where you're from, we have been influenced by whites, right? And so most nations are trying to hold on to their culture as I'm about to say gentrification. Listen, that's the urban experience. Colonization has happened, around the world, and so it is a difficult thing to kind of pinpoint. Especially, I think it's more difficult for people or African Americans, and I say that because our culture was stripped from us. And so we scraped and scrambled to identify ourselves. And everything we do to identify ourselves, to create our own culture, is stolen. Rather it's the music, rather it's the language, which is Ebonics, rather it's the various things that we come up with, rather it's soul food. All of these things that we've kind of like pulled and grabbed to call our own has been stolen. So I guess I say that to say, or to kind of give context to why we're kind of territorial over the little things that we do have, because other cultures and people come here and they bring their cultures with them, and they have their own language, right? They have their own garb. They have these different things, and we don't have it. And so when someone comes and takes what we have and don't acknowledge it, and I think no one is more accepting than the African American. We want to welcome you in. We want to welcome you to the party. We want to do all these things, right? And we're going to share what we have because we want to feed you and we want to dance for you and we want to do these things. But it's always stolen in every instance,
Blatantly,
and it's marketed.
Yeah,
and we get the crumbs of that, or if anything, we don't get acknowledged. And so I think that's why it's difficult for us. And so, but I don't think that appropriation is always financial. Someone can walk out and say, you know what, I want to dress as an Indian. And you'd be like, wait a minute, that is totally inappropriate, right? And what makes it inappropriate is that I may take it too far because it's beyond the costume. Now I want to take it somewhere where I ain't supposed to take it. Like, for instance, when individuals dress, let's say, for in a character that is black, and now you want to paint your face black. And it's like, wait a minute. You're taking it too far. Because you could have just been...
You could be Whitney Houston, and that's enough.
Right,
you don't need to paint your face
Exactly.
black.
I got that you were so-and-so. You didn't have to do blackface.
Yeah.
Those kind of things. And so, African Americans have reason and merit to be as sensitive as we are.
Would you say, I had asked you earlier, would you say that this is also a part of appropriation when women that are not of color, whenever they take certain things from specifically black women, they are known for being very voluptuous, right? Large, beautiful lips and all of that. And when someone else, they go and they literally get lip injections, ass shots, all of that. And they ridicule also the women that were a while ago, back in time when they used to ridicule women that are voluptuous, and now they have completely appropriated it.
Right.
Is that's a form?
Once again, it's African Americans are the most accepting population. We love the fact that you want to be us. right? Because that's really what it is. They want to be us, and that's how we feel.
They want to be gang.
That's how we feel. You want to be us, right? But the issue is the fact that it wasn't acceptable when I did it.
Yeah.
That's really the issue. So my full lips wasn't seen as beautiful. My broad nose wasn't, my ass or whatever it is wasn't seen as beautiful. But when the likes of Kim Kardashian, any of them get it, it's like, oh my God, this is beauty. No, we've been beautiful.
And then when you call it out, you're seen as a hater. No, I'm not a hater. Just come on.
Yeah.
You get it.
Of course, 100%. I mean, recently I saw the whole thing. I think Cardi B had a problem with, I think maybe it was with the Indian culture. I'm not sure.
I don't know. Tell me.
She did some replica with multiple hands. I don't know.
Oh my God.
I don't know the name of the person, but anyway.
Lakshmi?
Maybe. And then she was saying, like, she had to continuously defend herself. Like, no, listen, I'm not here to steal anybody's culture. I love this. This is who I am. You know, I guess, whatever of her family or heritage. So she was like, I'm embracing all of this. And I'm just like.
But it's also actually, Reggie mentioned Rihanna and her brand, Fenty Savage. There was a model that was in front of a Hindu temple and she was nude. Come on, you're not being a prude, but it's not okay.
Right, at least
You
learn some
have respect.
Definitely, Reggie's not gonna know.
No, but
Reggie's not gonna know that this is not acceptable.
No, and
but
then I'm
that's why
telling
you
you, yeah.
have to, before you go and include things.
But wait, Reggie,
that are
it's
such wide reach.
2021. We can't claim ignorance as much as we used to.
I'm not.
No, not
claiming-
you.
I'm not
Just
claiming
people
ignorance.
in general.
For them, with that power, that reach, you have to. Even though, like, I remember, I don't remember specifically the time frame or the person, but there was some individuals who went to Iran, right? Big time Islamic country, right? They still practice Sharia law.
Yeah.
Right? And went there, took off the hijab, which they were required to wear. You know, they have to hide the hair and the face. They took it off to take pictures. And it's like, for the likes, you did this to say, hey, I'm traveling the world and look where I am and this is cool. But you disrespected the country.
Yeah, the culture.
You disrespected the rules and laws that are in place in that country.
Right.
And then when you're arrested now and being punished for it, it's unfair. But you went into that place willingly.
Right.
You can't.
Of course.
You have to do the research. And again, I'm not going to blame, for example, Rihanna in that situation.
Right. She has
because you have to make sure you put someone in place that is mentally
Sensitive
accepting the
and all
fact
yeah.
that you need to be sensitive and appreciate all cultures. You're a billionaire.
And this is not the first. And let me just say, I love Rihanna. Like, I love her stuff.
Me too.
I do too.
We all do.
No.
We all do.
We all do.
No, like-
We all do, but she get called on her shit
No,
too.
but like a lot. Like, I do.
She get called on her
This
shit
is,
too.
this is the second time that her team, and now unfortunately, yes, she is responsible because her name is on it, right? But I'm going to say her team also, right? This is the second time that they've done something like this. During one of her fashion shows, in the background of one of her songs, they mixed in an Islamic prayer inside. You know, it's not okay. We have to be
100%.
wise.
You
Yeah.
really have to have that person
Yeah.
who is looking at the situation and being sensitive to it. You cannot just do whatever and include other culture.
Right.
I'm Antiguan. I can sit down and do Antiguan culture all day long. None of you can tell me nothing. It's my culture.
Yeah, I can wear a sari up and down this house.
You can do whatever. That's you, right? And I don't have the right to question it,
Of course.
right? But at the same time, if I'm going to sit down and do something that is in relation to another culture, especially with the reach, I have to put it. I have to make sure I'm giving some honor to what it is, and I have to make sure I'm giving recognition to it.
I think that was a great way to close this conversation, because I think we can do this for hours. But what I want us to do is kind of give our closing comments on the discussion today. Starting with you, Rebekah, how would you sum this up for your listeners?
I would say, just like in the beginning when Reggie defined what's appropriation versus appreciation, I think that is important to recognize what type of culture we come from. And if we think it, and when we understand our culture, would it be okay if someone took our culture and used it for their, help me out.
Just their benefit.
Exactly. Yeah. Like, would that sit well with us? So I think that whatever we do, I think we should always make sure that our intent is clear. Yeah.
Okay.
I'm gonna let ladies first. Go ahead.
Danica.
I just think there's a thin line, very, very thin line between appropriation and appreciation. It's just that if you do choose to appreciate it, make sure that you do your background, like Rebekah said and Reggie said and everybody else said, as to knowing exactly where you draw your line to know that you're showing respect to that culture. And don't appropriate it. Give them their props. Sheesh.
Yeah, shout out.
The internet has really changed everything over the last 30 years. Everything is available to us. You know, I can sit in my home in the Midwest in a community that's 99% Caucasian, and I can be as deep in hip hop as someone that is in the Bronx in one of our housing projects, right? Because the internet allows that. But just as much as it allows me to be a part of that culture, I have to educate myself about that culture. Because of that thin line that the ladies mentioned, you have to educate yourself. And we need to, and for fear of upsetting anyone, accept that this world is becoming interconnected in every single way. Anywhere where we have access to video, audio, and the internet, you know your culture is going to be appropriated because someone is going to look at it and say, wow, this is cool. Whether they're going to use it for financial gain or for likes, or they're just going to appreciate that culture. And I really feel like it's important for us to all educate ourselves when we step out of our individual cultures.
Very, very well said. The first, a couple of things. One, I just want to say that appropriation usually happens in communities that are that don't have a voice. Appropriation happened in communities that are usually financially burdened, and so when we talk about making profit, individuals who appropriate communities go into communities and take their likeness, their talents, and profit off of it because they don't have the power to be seen and or heard for their talents. And that's what's kind of problematic for me when I think about appropriation, rather it's gay culture, rather it's black, white, black, Indian, whatever it is. These communities have talents that's exploited. And it's really it mirrors the term it pretty much mirrors what has happened in the world where where whites have come into culturally rich communities and or nations and stolen their resources. That's what it mirrors for me. And to say that is to say that if you like something that you're not a part of, you have a responsibility to be cognizant of the fact that this is not yours. And you should acknowledge the fact that it's not yours. Yeah. So as you floss it, as you use it, as you profit for it, or if it's just you taking a picture, you should be cognizant of the fact that, I love it and I appreciate it, but it could be seen, it could be viewed as appropriation. Right. Rather, it's Adele who come from, and I think that's a great example because she looked good in a picture, but it was like, girl, you're not Jamaican. Girl, you're not from the hood. We Bantu knots. What you know about Bantu knots? And so in that moment, the world, because popular opinion and world opinion is the only opinion that matters. So as we see individuals like Adele with Bantu knots, it's just like, well, wait, And in that moment, the world don't know where she came from, like you said, Reggie. And so we have a responsibility to acknowledge and take ownership for our behaviors, right? And so our intent really isn't important. Okay. It's really perception. Mm-hmm. Your intent is great, but how is it being perceived? And so with that, we need to be cognizant about it. And I do believe that cultural appropriation is actually appreciation, because you see something and you think it's beautiful and you want to use it. Yeah, but the real issue is, are you going to give the community for which you got it from credit? And that's all we want. That's all individuals want, is to be acknowledged. And I think that's pretty much it. And for me, yeah. Well, everyone, that was intense.
It was
wonderful conversation.
But I do think it was necessary. You know.
You and I took a back seat today.
We sure did. Well,
you know, anytime that me and Reggie on the mic, you know, it's he come to battle me, but it's all right. But no, this was a great conversation. I want everybody I hope everybody appreciates this conversation. Please, I'm going to do the like. Yay. We want you to like, share, comment, subscribe, as I say, prescribe. But we just want you to give us your feedback. We really intend to grow and to expand, so we need your feedback on how well we're doing. And we want to thank you for coming to what? The Podi.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Every time I say bye, I hear Dylan's song in my head. The ending, the outro.